Welcome to Sakshi TV's special immigration show with attorney Ms. Sheela Murthy from the Murthy Law Firm. Please note that Sakshi TV now has 3 immigration shows every week on Tuesday at 3 p.m. EST with attorney Ms. Sheela Murthy, Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. EST with attorney Prashanthi Reddy in English, and on Friday at 6 p.m. EST with attorney Bhanu Ilindra. Please tune in to ask your questions. If you're an immigration attorney and would like to join our special shows, please email us at usa@sakshi.com or call 866-725-7441. Before we begin the show, please note that the information provided on this show is not a legal advice and is for general informational purposes only. Sakshi TV or its agents will not be responsible for use of information. If you need specific legal advice, please contact the attorney directly. Ms. Murthy needs no introduction, but if you need consultation, please log on to murthy.com. From the beginning, Murthy.com has put a wealth of free information and online tools in the hands of immigrant community and for the benefit of US employers. The Murthy.com site provides you with the latest and cutting-edge information on US immigration law and policies explained in terms you don't have to be a lawyer to understand. Today's topic is the I-140 latest updates. We will continue the knowledge session along with the last week's Q&A. And before we get into the topic, you can call us on the numbers on the screen for questions related to immigration and also ask for tips. Hello, Ms. Murthy. How are you doing?
Hi, Tony. How are you? Good to meet you. See you again, and good to meet all our new callers and to see those who've been calling regularly. Happy to be here.
Yes, Ms. Murthy, I'm doing very well, thank you. And I'm excited to start this show. But before we get into the topic, we already have a caller on hold. So, we have a Mr. Rajat from California. Thank you for calling, Mr. Rajat. You may ask Ms. Murthy your question directly.
Hi, Mr. Murthy.
Hi, Rajat.
Good morning.
Hi, Rajat. Are you here? Are you with us?
I can hear. Yes,
Right.
I can hear you.
Yeah. We can hear you. So you may ask Ms. Murthy your question directly.
So, Ms. Murthy, I have a very different situation. I have approached many people. I have approached the attorneys also, but they all have the different opinion about it. Actually, I have a new H1B. I just came to US on my H1B, and my wife, she is in Canada, and she holds a Canada PR. So we were just thinking that because my wife can't work in US because she has just H4, she doesn't hold the EAD. So I was just wondering, is it possible that I can go to Canada on my H1B and stay there on the tourist visa or later on the Canada PR and do the work from home from Canada without affecting my H1B and everything?
Okay. So your question really is about Rajat, your question is about Canadian immigration law, because in the United States, the way the law works, and in Canada, in every country in the world, where you are physically located, you need to get permission from that country and that government through their immigration process. So if your wife is a permanent resident of Canada, she needs to file the sponsorship papers for your permanent resident status. If she has done that and that process takes many years, then you cannot just visit. You actually need a tourist visa to enter Canada. And as you know, the Canadian border only opened last month in November of 2021 because it was shut down for over a year, I think, or about a year or over a year because of COVID-19 safety, health reasons and the pandemic. So you cannot just physically go there. There's no gray area and no questions. There's no gray area in this. You cannot just go as a H-1B holder with an Indian passport and go to Canada. First of all, you need a visa to enter Canada as a tourist. And second, if you get a visa to enter as a tourist, you cannot perform work in Canada unless you get a Canadian work permit to work in Canada. Now, if you go and work based on the H-1B, physically in Canada, you're technically in violation of Canadian immigration law and Canadian labor laws. The US may not care because you are allowed to work in the United States. And if she wants to come in, because she's not yet a citizen of Canada, she cannot come in on the TN or trade NAFTA or what's called the USMCA, US Mexico Canada Agreement. So you, first of all, should be speaking with a Canadian immigration lawyer to figure out how you can get a work permission or work permit to live and stay together with your wife. And if that can be done on an expedited basis, but I don't know why that wasn't done for you from India itself. Oh, because it's faster if you're in the United States to get that work permission. So you need to do that, because otherwise you could technically be deported and in violation of Canadian immigration law. I am not a Canadian immigration lawyer. I cannot give advice to you on Canadian law, but I know enough to know that any violation will occur if you enter on a tourist visa and just stay there and keep working for a US company. All the best, Rajat. I know you're desperate, but don't take shortcuts. This is your life. This is very important, and you don't want a black mark that'll affect you for the rest of your life. All the best.
I hope that helped you, Rajat. So, Ms. Murthy, before we get into the topic, do we have any immigration updates for our viewers today?
Nothing that jumps out at me. I mean, we've talked about the visa bulletin. We've talked about, what's going on. We are expecting, of course, the new year, but it's just a new quarter that's starting after the first quarter, which is October, November, December. Well, in a couple of weeks, we're going to have the next year, 2022. But because USCIS uses the fiscal year starting from October 2021, the priority dates have already moved quite a bit this year, October of 2021, which is the fiscal year 2022. We know that Charlie Oppenheim has retired from the US Department of State. And the visa bulletin is expected to continue to move forward in different categories. There was a little bit, some of the consulates are talking about huge backlogs in the different US consular posts across the globe because of slowly reopening after a lot of the pandemic slowdowns and closures and opening issues. And I believe there was one other thing that's evading me, but I'm sure as I'm talking, it'll come back. The issue pertaining to movement of priority dates, and some people are complaining about some service centers are refusing to accept or are slower to process switching the PO box or the service center. You have to be careful how you orchestrate and plan that. Discuss it with your lawyer. If you don't have one, make sure you're not jeopardizing your status by trying to do multiple applications or complicating the matters.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. So, Ms. Murthy, before we get into the topic, we have another caller on hold, Mr. Vikram from New York. Thank you for calling, Vikram. You may ask Ms. Murthy your question directly.
Good afternoon, Ms. Sheela Murthy. I came into the US on a B2. I have a B1, B2 visa. I came on an official visit. And at the port of entry, they have actually given it as B2 visitor for 6 months.
Okay, Vikram.
Hello? Yeah, so basically my employer, he wanted me to come on B1 because if there is a possibility of change of status later to file either L1 or H1, now since they have given me an approval as a B2, is it possible for me to go back to the CBP office or online anywhere? Can we request for a change of entry from B2 to B1?
So you're saying you didn't catch it when you entered the country, when at the airport or the port of entry, you never realized that till afterwards because it's no longer stamped, or did you see it in your passport, or you were so tired you didn't notice what they stamped?
There was no stamping. I will have to go online and check the approval.
Mm-hmm. So by law, anyway, it's not advisable, as you very well know. If you ask for a B1, they will only give it for 30 days or 60 days in most cases. It's only with B2 that you get a full 6 months time. So if you go back to the airport, Vikram, there's a high risk that you could be told your 30 days are over, because you're not allowed to come and work from here, and legally you're not allowed to change your status from within the United States because of the doctrine of fraud. You have to wait minimum 90 days, and B1s almost never get more than 90 days. So maybe the CBP officer did you a huge favor by giving you more time, or maybe not, because if you are jeopardizing your status, you may need to leave the country. Otherwise, If you file a change of status in the United States and that change of status is ultimately denied because the change of status can take 8 to 13 months to get approved, and you are not allowed to start working or doing anything until it's approved, you are much better off being outside the country and applying for a visa from a US consular post abroad, Vikram.
Right. I hope that answered your question, Vikram. So, Ms. Murthy, we have Rajat from California has called us again. So, thank you for calling, Rajat. You may ask Ms. Murthy your question. Hi, Rajat. Are you with us? Right. Looks like we've lost Rajat. So, Ms. Murthy, before we get into the topic, I have one more question for you. With the Omicron cases rising in the entire world, I mean, slowly but surely, is there any chance of a travel ban? Do we see anything in that area? Is it threatening for us?
So already India has a travel ban against many countries in the world.
Right.
And the US, of course, has a travel ban against countries around South Africa, 7 or 8 countries. So whether it'll increase or decrease will depend on what happens with the pandemic. From what all of the research and everything we have found in the past week or 2 weeks since Omicron was first detected and in the United States and spreading from South Africa, it's our understanding that it is a milder form. And I am not a healthcare professional and I do not profess to give advice on that very complex area, but it is supposed to be a milder form based on the preliminary results. And 99% of the cases, hospitalizations in the United States and around the world are based on the Delta variant and not on the Omicron variant. So I don't know that Omicron is going to cause as many problems as the Delta variant, but a lot of the people in the United States, the problem is if anybody in the rest of the world is not vaccinated, then it's the mutation will continue with the virus because the virus is determined to remain alive and stay and continue to wreak havoc against people and against countries and against economies, because that's the job. Is every creature wants to live and the virus wants to live, and when you take the vaccine, you're preventing it from spreading. So of course I would recommend talk to your doctor and your physician, but it would make sense unless you have some serious allergies and major problem to take it to stop the spread. And the countries and the consulates around the world that are waiting for scientists and the World Health Organization and different countries' centers for their versions of CDC or the Centers for Disease Control are saying that right now Omicron is not the problem, it's more the Delta, the old variant that we had. And right now, most countries are still allowing travel to occur fairly liberally, except for South Africa and countries around South Africa. And India has also shut its borders, as has America shut its borders for South Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Botswana, all of the countries around, approximately 8 countries around the country of South Africa.
Right.
Thank
Right.
you.
So, Ms. Murthy, we have another caller on hold, Mr. Murali from Connecticut. Thank you for calling, Murali. You may ask Ms. Murthy your question directly.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for taking my call. Good afternoon, Ms. Murthy. I have a quick question about one of my situation. Can
Go
you
ahead,
hear
Murali.
me?
Yes,
Hello?
please go ahead.
Yes, Murali,
Yes,
we can
Murali.
hear you. Please go ahead with your
Good
question.
afternoon. Good afternoon. So I have my 140 was approved in the beginning on EB2. Recently, last October, it was amended and converted into EB3. My date would be current in EB2 in coming months. So I would like to know what are my options now.
Okay, well, you should discuss it first of all with the lawyer who's helping you because they may be more familiar, Murli, with your particular situation and file. But in general, if your priority date and the final action date is not yet current in EB2, it doesn't make sense to try to downgrade and upgrade and downgrade and upgrade, because then you will again have to deal with this problem if there's another change. Because thousands of people at one time are trying to downgrade, and then thousands last year, and now thousands of people are trying to upgrade. And until the final action date becomes current, you don't want to keep playing that game, because you're just going to be wasting resources and time, effort, energy at this point. But once the final action date is current, then it may make sense, Murli, to go ahead and request the upgrade or go back to the original application and hopefully request the United USCIS to approve, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service, to approve your application for adjustment of status. Thank you.
It is once the date becomes current, I would suggest to go ahead and apply for upgrade at that point of time.
Yeah, but by law, actually, it's not even required because according to the USCIS policy manual, Murli, the USCIS officer or examiner is required and supposed to check what are the different I-140 approvals that are already available in your name under your file in that particular 485 filing, and they are supposed to approve it automatically based on the whichever approval petition, I-140 petition you have that is approved. And if there is a basis for its approval, they can approve it without even being requested for an interfiling or anything, because it should be happening automatically.
Right, I hope that helped you, Murli. So, Ms. Murthy, we're moving on to our topic, and my first question is, can someone concurrently file their I-140 with I-485?
Yes, it's possible if the priority dates are current, either dates of filing or final action date. Yes.
Right. So, what steps can one take to ensure that their I-140 does not get rejected by the USCIS?
Yeah, I think we've talked about this. Just be very careful on the documents you include. Make sure you have every single piece of paper to show eligibility for the 485. If you have a criminal record, if you have a DUI, if you have a shoplifting, if you have speeding tickets, mention whatever you need to check off the box so that it does not come back in the future to say that there was incomplete or insufficient information for the USCIS to issue the receipt. Sometimes the most common problems are simples. Signature, people forget to sign the check in a hurry. People forget to put the date cross like India instead of US date. And if the date doesn't, if it looks like the check is more than 6 months old or sometimes 3 months old, USCIS will not accept the filing. They will return the package after 3 or 4 months. And by that time, your priority date may not be current any longer. So it's extremely important to check the date on the check, the signature on the check, ensure that it's valid, not expired for more than 3 months when you file it and it's received by USCIS, and all of the underlying facts, documents, evidence to show eligibility under the EB2 or EB3 category in order to be able to get your 485 approval.
Right. Ms. Murthy, we have a caller on hold, Mr. Peter from New York City. Thank you for calling, Peter. You may ask Ms. Murthy your question directly.
Hello.
Hi, Peter. Hi, can you hear
Murthy.
us?
My question is that I applied I-140 in Texas Service Center in EB2, but I hearing the news that it is taking that more time to approve the I-140. Can I downgrade from EB2 to EB3, or can I go with other employer to file new I-140?
You cannot, no, a person cannot just file a new I-140 with a new employer, right? You need an underlying perm, an I-140, unless the 485 is pending for more than 180 days. Then you could show that you're, with a supplement J, that you're changing jobs, but you're getting same or similar job, right? So, Peter, you just have to see what the eligibility is. Why would you want to downgrade or upgrade your case, right? And if you're trying to downgrade, because just because it's EB2 or EB3, we are not seeing it any faster in terms of processing. USCIS is still, majority of cases are still pending from last year.
Hi, Peter. Are you with us?
I'm not sure why. I think you're having some technical difficulties with the recording.
Right. So moving on, Ms. Murthy, we have another caller, Mr. Ravi from New Jersey. Thank you for staying on hold, Ravi. You may ask Ms. Murthy your question directly.
Hi, Murthy. I'm just calling from a company. I just want to ask you a question. when we're filing a H1B, can we mention 30 hours on I-129 and mention as a full-time?
Full-time has to be either 35 or 40. You're allowed max, the minimum you need is 35. Otherwise, it should be checked off as a part-time job if it's 30 hours.
Okay, because is that okay if you're doing 35 hours? Because because in the consulting field, no one will have this 2080 hours based on 40 hours a week in the consulting company. And so if you're doing 35 hours, and if the timesheets or whatever, will they ask us, like, if the timesheets are for 40, how did we pay for 35? Is there anything they go around the timesheets or?
Yeah, we can't. I mean, it's, first of all, it sounds like you're asking very case-specific advice, and you want to be careful because, the government could be listening, and I don't know what you mean by going around it. You either follow the law or you don't. This is the United States of America, and you really need, if you want any privacy and you want attorney-client protection privileges, you need to discuss something that could have a big impact on your financial or your status in the country. You need to maybe speak directly, schedule it with our office or somebody else, or even with your company lawyer to understand, because something isn't making sense. If the company is putting 30 hours and showing full-time, that's not legally permissible per USCIS and Department of Labor laws. And then if you're saying, how can I get around it by doing something? First of all, you don't get around rules. You follow the law, or you figure out if there's a legal exception to something. And, especially the last thing I would do is speak in a public open forum like a television station or a public forum, because if the government is listening in, then the last thing you want is to make yourself known or available to people. So please be careful and always follow the law and always do things right.
Right. So, Ms. Murthy, my next question for you is, in the case of I-485 abeyance after I-140 approval, can a person file for EAD or AP?
If the priority date's current, you file the I-140 with the 485 concurrently, you absolutely are eligible to file the EAD and the AP all together so that you can get it approved. Now, I would have thought most prior to last October, when it was huge backlogs because of tens of thousands of cases, most EADs used to be issued in the good old days, which was still about a couple years ago, till the prior administration a few years ago, within 3 months, maximum 6 months. Now it's taking 13 months plus. We know people who are waiting from last year, October, for the EAD and AP approval. I did 3 consultations yesterday, and all of them complained that they did not get their EAD or their AP after 13 months of filing and waiting for it, for them and family members.
Right. So, Ms. Murthy, moving on to the next question, what would you say are the primary advantages of concurrent filing?
Well, their primary advantage and disadvantage, right? The primary advantage is you can file your EAD and AP, like I just said, right away. The disadvantage, of course, is if the I-140 is denied, then you have wasted more money filing the 485 with the EAD and AP, because you ultimately need an I-140 petition approval in order to continue with the 485 processing and the EAD and AP processing.
Right. So, if a person files their I-140 with their I-485 concurrently, will both the petitions be abrogated simultaneously? What if that person's visa is not current?
Yeah, it doesn't matter if the priority date retrogresses goes backwards after you file the I-140 and 485 based on the priority date, the date of filing, or the final action date, either one being current. And even if it goes backwards, the USCIS can continue to process the case. They usually approve the I-140 petition first. And after that is approved, then they go ahead and approve the 485, the EAD and AP generally first, and then the 485, though they are taking so long now for all of those different approvals. And even the I-140 is taking over 13 months. I know majority of the people whose EB3 or EB2 cases are still pending and have not been approved.
Right. Right. Ms. Murthy, what you would say one needs to know about labor certification for EB2 I-140 application? What are the things that one needs to know about it?
So generally, by law, a person is not eligible for an EB2 category unless the job is sophisticated and complex and requires either a master's degree or a bachelor's plus 5. Most people don't just put master's because almost no job requires just a master's with nothing else unless it's a very starting kind of position. So if it requires a master's plus 3 years of experience, then you need to mention that, explain why the employer requires it, so that way you can show why you are the person who's applying for the job is qualified for that job and why that person deserves to get the perm labor certification approved. And once you convince the US Department of Labor that there is no ready, willing, or able US worker, you can then file the I-140 petition with the USCIS. A big part of the problem right now is, of course, because of the very positive US economy that is doing really well, with unemployment less than 5%, which is, again, historic lows in unemployment in the United States, and the economy being chugging along so powerfully. The important thing really here is to ensure that you show the US Department of Labor and the USCIS why you're not able to find a ready, qualified, available workers, especially in high-skilled professional jobs, because we have so much more demand than there is supply in the United States. And if the US government is not going to roll out the red carpet and make professional high-skilled workers feel comfortable, then other countries will be happy to have them, and they will take over the leadership in the world of technology, which is something I know every country is very protective and wants to obviously help their own economy.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. With that, Ms. Murthy, we come to the end of the session, towards the end of the session. But here is my favorite part, where you tell us your golden immigration message for the week and share it with our viewers.
Wonderful. Thank you as always for asking that question, Thorny, and to each and every one of you. You know, I always say you continue to think positively, arm yourself with knowledge, because knowledge is power. And Murthy.com continues to provide very valuable free information through the Murthy.com website, the bulletin, the articles, and all of that. So knowledge is available for free, but it is up to you. We can take the horse to the water, but we cannot make you drink it. So you have to go find the particular relevant sources of information that will educate you, empower you, and enlighten you, so that you feel very much supported and strong as you go through the US immigration law journey. And this advice is not only helpful in immigration, but it is helpful for everything in your life. So as the new year is round the corner, 2022 is tapping on our shoulder. Here's wishing you, your family, and your loved ones a very, very happy holiday season, happy new year, and hopefully only good things will happen for you and everyone in your family and your loved ones. Thank you, Thorny. Thank you to all our viewers. Have a great day.
It was a pleasure hosting you, Ms. Murthy. Happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're watching Sakshi TV Live with me, Torni Makana. Thank you.